I'm Robbin Miller, host of Miller Chat. My guest today is Brendan Mahan. He is the owner of ADHD Essentials. Did I say that right?
Yes, ADHD Essentials.
Well, thank you for coming back on. You were on my show last year.
Yep.
So I'm glad that you were able to come on this fall. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
Yep. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about what you do, and also remind our viewers what you do as well. So just fellow viewers, to remind them, what do you do in terms of your business?
So I am an ADHD coach, consultant, and speaker. And what that means is I basically work with anybody who's affected by ADHD. So that might be an adult who is struggling with a career change or any other change of life. So having a kid, getting a divorce, that kind of stuff. Typically that's when they come to me, but sometimes it's just, I'm struggling with ADHD, it's falling apart, I don't want to lose my job, please help me. Or I don't want my family to fall apart and get divorced. So that kind of thing. And then I also work with families and kids who are affected by ADHD. Middle school and lower, typically it's the family, like the parents that I'm working with, and giving them some skills around how to, one, better understand ADHD, and two, help their kids manage it more effectively. But I'm not usually working directly with the kid. They might come to the meetings or something like that, but they're not the main person I'm trying to help. It's usually the parents. Because when kids are that age, the parents are the ones with the power.
Of course.
So we want to help them first. Middle school and up, so middle school kind of bridges the gap here a little bit. Middle school and up, I'm more likely to be working with the kid directly. Teaching them skills, literally anything from helping them write that essay, not necessarily in a way where I'm teaching them content, but where I'm teaching them thinking and organizational skills to help them better prepare to write the essay and then execute on that preparation. And then I consult with schools and mental health agencies, and I provide professional development for schools and mental health agencies, even the occasional employment group. And I also have a podcast called ADHD Essentials, where I interview ADHD experts, mental health experts, parents affected by ADHD, and school staff, because so much of a kid's day happens at school, and so many of us don't know what that looks like. And the ADHD Essentials podcast is really aimed at parents affected by ADHD.
It's a third of their day, right?
Yeah.
When you look at 24 hours, it's really Monday through Friday. It's a third of their day.
And it's the biggest chunk, right? Because some of that other third is in the morning, and some of that's in the afternoon, and then there's the sleeping chunk.
Right.
But that school day is the biggest piece of their day.
Yeah. For 10 months of the year.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the feel of Wall of Awful. Is that yours? Did you develop that?
Yeah, I did. I created the Wall of Awful 5 or 6 years ago, probably.
Okay.
And actually, it happened in Shrewsbury, oddly enough. I was at a client's house. I do house calls in Shrewsbury, anywhere else, and it's video chat. And even sometimes with Shrewsbury, it's video chat. So we just talk over the internet. And so I was at a client's house just talking about ADHD, and the parents were asking me about why their kids won't do homework. Like, why won't my kid do homework? And I said, so it's almost like there's this wall of awful between them and their homework. And immediately the back part of my brain, I have ADHD, so I can have a lot of thoughts all at once. It's part of why I'm good at working with people who have ADHD, is because I have it. But so I said, it's almost like there's this wall of awful between your kid and their homework. And immediately my brain was like, as I'm talking, it's going, that's a great idea. There's something in here. What's happening with this sudden phrase that you said? And as time went by, I started to develop it and really use it as a metaphor to help people understand not just the struggles of ADHD. That's where it started, but it's really grown to become a model for the traumatic effect of repeated failure. And there's all kinds of reasons why we fail over and over again. It doesn't have to be ADHD.
Right.
But that's what the model is, and that's how it kind of came about. Do you want me to dig more into it?
Yes.
Okay.
And you should trademark it too.
I'm in the process.
Sure, go ahead. Tell us a little bit more about it.
So the wall of awful is the emotional impact of repeated failure. So it keeps us from initiating tasks and taking risks. It really prevents us from doing that. It's this emotional barrier between those tasks and those risks. And the way it works is every time we fail, we get a brick in our wall. So a little failure brick.
Okay.
And along with that failure brick we get a disappointment brick because we've disappointed ourselves, but we also get a disappointment brick for anyone whose opinion of us matters around that failure. So that might be mom, dad, a boss, a spouse, a teacher, your kid, it could be anybody. So if we play with sort of, I'll use homework as an example because that's where it grows from.
Okay.
So if our kid just doesn't do a social studies assignment, they just didn't do their social studies homework. Now they get a failure brick, right, because they didn't do their social studies homework. They also get a disappointment brick for themselves, a disappointment brick for mom, dad, the teacher. If it's a group assignment, maybe some classmates. Along with those disappointment bricks, we also get a rejection brick because when we disappoint someone, we feel like they're going to reject us.
Right.
Whether they do or don't doesn't matter. Whether they're disappointed in us or not doesn't matter. It's about our perception. So if we perceive that that's happening and the other person doesn't get in there quick enough to let us know it's not a big deal, those bricks are going to land, those bricks are going to stay. If they tell us pretty quick, maybe we are able to let that go.
Right.
So if we are sitting in social studies class and the teacher's like, take out your homework, and we go, oh, there was homework, maybe the teacher can hop in and say, yeah, don't worry about it, you haven't missed an assignment all year long, just get it to me tomorrow, and it's not the end of the world. Or it's the beginning of the year, it's okay, don't worry about it. But if we realize on the bus ride to school that we didn't do that social studies homework, we can't be forgiven by the teacher until we get to social studies class. That brick is going to stay, regardless of how the teacher responds.
Right.
Even if it gets a little bit of forgiveness, we might weaken that brick or something, but it's probably going to stay. And so these bricks just keep building up and up and up. Along with the disappointment and the rejection bricks, we also get guilt because I feel like I made a mistake. Guilt can easily become shame. The difference being guilt is I feel like I made a mistake.
Right.
Shame is I feel like I am the mistake. With my clients, if the reason you made that mistake is because you have ADHD, how do you tease that out? How do you avoid the shame? For me, the phrase I use is sometimes the ADHD wins. Because sometimes my ADHD wins. I make mistakes. I'm supposed to make those mistakes because I have ADHD. In the same way that I have asthma and sometimes I'm supposed to have trouble breathing, I don't feel guilty about that.
No, that's who you are.
Yeah, so I shouldn't feel guilty about the fact that I double booked myself or I'm late for an appointment or I can't find my keys or I went to the store to buy milk and I came back with everything but milk. Like,
I hear you on that one.
yeah, right? It's a thing that happens. It's not the end of the world. Those things can be solved. And I don't use ADHD as an excuse, but I do use it as a reason. And the line that I draw there is an excuse absolves me of everything. It's not a bad thing. I don't need to feel bad about the fact that I caused this problem, but I also don't have to feel bad about the problem and I don't have to solve it. A reason is I don't have to feel bad about the fact that I caused this problem, but I am responsible for solving it. I might not even,
of course, accountability.
Right. I might not even have to feel bad about the problem, but I do have to feel responsible for that problem.
Okay.
And then I have to take action on it. So with regard to the wall of awful, these things get built up pretty quick. With a social studies homework assignment, there might be more than one wall of awful going on around that assignment. We could have a wall of awful for social studies if our son or daughter struggles in that subject. It could also be a wall of awful for homework if that's a challenge, or it could be two, one for social studies and one for homework. So depending on what's going on, it can be challenging to get past it. And we can even have a third one pop up if our kid struggles with doing work when their little sister is around or their little brother's around, they're doing their homework, everything seems fine, then the little brother or sister wanders into the kitchen, all of a sudden the productivity is gone.
Right.
There's something going on there. There's a brand new wall of awful that just jumped up. And so they have to navigate these emotions that have arisen in response to whatever the outside stimuli is. Doesn't have to be a little brother or sister. Sometimes it's mom and dad.
Right. So they build up bricks, disappointment, rejection.
Right. Yeah, shame, loneliness, if those rejection bricks happen often enough. You can have a wall of awful for asking someone out on a date.
So how tall can the wall be?
I mean, it's a metaphor. So
It could be as tall as that.
it can be
Oh,
huge. Yeah,
yeah.
And it's really a challenge to get past, right? And the phrase that I use is climbing the wall, right? So there's 5 ways to get past the wall of awful. Climbing's one of them, but we'll get to that one in a second. 2 of the ways don't work. one of the ways that gets past the wall is destructive, and two of the ways are pretty effective and get us past it pretty well. The two that don't work are staring at it, because you're not doing anything, you're not engaging with it, you're just, I feel bad, right?
Stuck.
Yeah, you're stuck. And the second one is trying to go around it. But it's a metaphor, and it's infinitely wide. I know, because I made it up. You're never going around the wall of awful. You're going to wind up getting distracted by something else. You're going to be like, oh, hey, cool, Bob's Burgers is on. And now you're watching Bob's Burgers, and you're not doing the thing.
Okay.
The way that gets us past it but is damaging is to Hulk smash, right? So just smash through the wall of awful. That's when your kid, you're talking about homework, you got to do the homework. What's going on? And then finally the kid's like, fine, I'll do it, God! And that they snap at you, right? That's them using anger as a tool, because this is an emotional wall. Anger is a strong emotion. It can help us push through it. Or you might have like the hood flips up and they sort of sulk and they shut down and that kind of thing.
Right.
That's Hulk smashing inwardly. Now they're using guilt and personal shame and maybe even anger with themselves to push through that wall. They're trying to get their emotions riled up enough to be able to start doing the thing. But that doesn't work, because we're either damaging our relationship with our parents or our peers or our teachers or our boss, or we're damaging our relationship with ourselves. So it's not a healthy strategy, but it is one that gets used a fair amount. And I should point out that right now, those three, right, smash, go around, and stare at it, that's fight, flight, and freeze. That's the body's stress response. That's how we typically respond to stress. That's when we're in our amygdala, the part of the brain that's responsible for really strong emotions and trying to keep us safe and that kind of stuff. It prevents us from thinking clearly when we get stuck in the amygdala. So those three strategies are not that great. The two that get us past it, one is climbing the wall, like I mentioned. And that's just sitting with those emotions. That's just managing those emotions and navigating them. And often what that looks like is staring at it. So when we have, a good example of this is when we have our kid takes like 20 minutes to get their binders out of their backpack, right?
Right.
And as parents, we kind of go over, we take that binder out, we put it on the table, we flip it open, we're like, just go. And then one of two things happens. Either the kid gets upset, what are you doing going in my backpack? I don't even have to do that. What are you talking about? That's the wrong page. Or hood goes up, they start sulking, right? They start shutting down. What's happened is they weren't really getting binders out of their backpack. They were climbing the wall of awful. They were navigating the dread of that assignment and sitting with it and kind of processing it.
Right.
And the outward demonstration of that was slowly getting their binders out of their backpack or looking around for a pencil or whatever. And we just said, get to the other side of the wall right now. We dropped the binder down, we're like, do it. Their only strategy is to Hulk smash, because that's the easy one.
Right, of course.
And so now they're Hulk smashing. As a parent, instead of taking the binder out, we could say, hey, what's going on? Are you climbing the wall of awful? Because this is not a hard concept.
Right.
It's a powerful concept. It's rich, there's a lot to it, but it's not something that's hard to teach. And so I encourage parents watching to use this metaphor. Talk to your kids about it, share it with them. There's even videos on YouTube if you need a reminder. And have them understand it so you can talk about it. So you can say, hey, are you climbing the wall of awful? What's going on? Because when we realize we're climbing the wall, oftentimes we climb it faster just because we know it's happening.
Okay.
And also it allows us to talk about the really challenging topic of abstract emotions, right? That's kind of hard to have a conversation about.
Oh, I don't think they can figure that out.
Yeah. But if we talk about a wall, I kind of made those abstract concepts concrete. So that's a strategy. And then the final way that people can typically get past the wall is by changing their emotional state. You put a door in the wall of awful. And that's anything from listening to music to watching that episode of Bob's Burgers. It looks a lot like trying to go around it. Like, hey, Mom, can I watch an episode of Bob's Burgers and then do my homework? And oftentimes we say no, because that episode has turned into 6 episodes in the past, and that doesn't work.
Right.
Especially for my ADHD folks, because their executive functions mean they get caught up in the dopamine role of laughing at Bob, or it's because they don't realize how many episodes they've watched. They're just not paying attention to time as well. So you might need to set a timer. You might need to make it more easy for them to see those choice points.
Right.
But other ways to put a door in it, in addition to watching Bob's Burgers, I mentioned music. There's a reason kids want to listen to earbuds while they do their homework.
Right.
It's because it helps get them going. It's a little bit of a mental fidget. And as long as they're doing their homework, let them. Who cares? If they're just bopping along and singing the whole time, maybe we need to pick different music, but that doesn't mean music's a bad strategy. I like to listen to podcasts. When I find that I'm like, I have to do all this productivity work, I have to like write a book or send a bunch of emails or something, I just can't seem to get myself going, I'll listen to a podcast for a little while.
Okay.
Changing my location is useful too.
Yeah, right.
There's a reason people write in coffee shops. Exercise is powerful for changing our emotional state. I was on the treadmill for a half an hour before I came here because I was dragging. Doing better now. So those are some ways to get past the wall of awful, both in terms of ways that don't work and also in terms of ways that do.
So the door is a metaphor for what?
For changing your emotional state.
Oh.
Because it's quicker, right? If I just listen to music and get motivated, that's better. That's a faster shift. But one of the things that it doesn't do is it doesn't help us manage the emotional challenge that we're facing.
Okay.
So we might kick the can of my dread for doing social studies work, and because I'm not handling that, I'm not realizing that there's actually something going on here, right? Like the reason I don't like social studies is because I actually have dyslexia and it hasn't been diagnosed yet.
Right.
If we just don't navigate the reasons why, we're not going to catch what's really going on underneath. So always putting a door in it is not necessarily the best choice.
But it's like a soft touch. It's like an olive branch.
Yeah, it's an olive branch.
I look at it like an olive branch.
Yeah. But we also want to let our kids sort of sit with the discomfort a little bit and learn how to do that. Because the more our kids and ourselves as adults, the more we can learn to manage that discomfort, the stronger we can get as a climber of our walls of awful. Because the more comfortable we are with discomfort, the easier it becomes to handle that when it shows up.
Well, it's a matter of being vulnerable.
Right.
Being comfortable, vulnerable. We as a society, Western culture, we tend to want to hide it.
Right.
We want to stuff it.
Yeah, especially men.
Okay. And maybe strong women too.
Certainly, but for men, there's more of a cultural pressure to never be weak.
Of course.
Right? Men aren't allowed to cry, women are allowed to cry.
Right, of course.
So it's even more significant for men.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting about that. It's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel shame.
Right.
Talking about shame helps.
Yeah, and it's okay to let our kids be anxious and be uncomfortable. If all we do is protect our kids from those anxious feelings and those negative feelings, then we're not teaching them to handle them. And those negative feelings, that anxiety, it's going to grow and take over more space than it's already covering.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Well, I hope that you eventually trademark and write a book about it.
I am. The book has been started.
Good.
And the trademark process has been started, so those things are happening. It's just slow going.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about a shred. What's the shred model for managing ADHD?
Yeah, so my shred model, it's really a lifestyle management technique for ADHD, and it also works with things like anxiety and depression and other areas of mental health. And it stands for sleep, habits, relationships, exercise, and diet.
Oh, so it's an acronym.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
So sleep is do it, right? We need 8 hours of sleep as adults. We just do. And if you're not getting those 8 hours of sleep, you're doing yourself a disservice with regard to how productive you can be, how emotionally sort of managed and stable you can be. Those things become harder when we get less sleep. But we often skip a few hours of sleep in order to be productive. But in the long run, you're becoming less productive. So you want to take those extra 2 hours of sleep and get the full 8 instead of sleeping 6,
Right.
because later you'll be able to produce more effectively, and in the long run, you'll do a better job.
Okay.
The H in SHRED stands for habits. So that's looking at the ways in which we can turn our life into a habit. And the more we habitualize things, the less we have to think about them. The example I usually use is brushing your teeth, right? We don't typically think about brushing our teeth. You might have to remember to do it, maybe.
Right.
But when you go into the bathroom, you're not like, where is my toothbrush? Where is my toothpaste? Now what do I do? It's a habit. You just know what to do. It just happens and you brush your teeth and
Right.
you move on. The more things we can make a habit, the less those things are taking up brain space and bandwidth for us. So the more space we have for other things.
Right.
And that can be anything from our sleep routine to exercising to habitualizing what dinner is. Maybe every Monday you have the same thing, every Tuesday you have the same thing, every Wednesday you have the same thing. That's great.
Right.
That's a solid plan. If that's too boring for you, then don't do that. It's okay. If you're someone who enjoys cooking different meals, totally cook different meals. But if that's not exciting for you, consider turning your dinners into a habit.
Okay.
Morning and evening routines are really the most important habits to have. The morning routine sets the tone for the day. The evening routine, if we're doing it right, takes things away from the morning routine so it's easier.
Okay. And the R?
Relationships. So that is exactly what it sounds like. We need to have relationships. Our culture is getting more and more lonely as the years go by because of the internet, because of the divides that we're having in this culture. Make some friends, reach out, find some people to connect with. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable and weird, especially as an adult. It's hard to make friends.
Yeah.
But I've managed to pull it off. I typically advise that you have some sort of event that will draw a good number of people to you that is not a very significant social investment, like maybe a movie or something. And then as you make those friends, then shift it to something that's slightly more significantly social. So board games,
Right.
right? That's literally the model that I use with making more friends.
Trying to
since we
get
got
people to.
Shrewsbury. Yeah, it's hard. But those things, and also get involved in activities, right? Like my boys are part of Cub Scouts. I am a volunteer at Cub Scouts. I have made friends because of that,
Right.
because we do Cub Scouts together. I'm a part of American Concepts, the dojo in the center of town. I have friends because I do that.
Right.
So those getting involved in the local community, that's ways to make friends and go through your kids, have your kids make friends through your friends. That stuff all works too.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we need to have people to complain to. We need to have people to celebrate with. We need to have those things.
Yeah. And the E?
Exercise.
Okay.
Oh my God, exercise. Specifically for ADHD, you want to do cardio. It oxygenates the brain, helps us think more clearly. That's critical. It also helps us fall asleep. So that circles back to that sleep one from earlier. Weight training will help you sleep more deeply. So lift some weights, do some cardio, get yourself moving. And it doesn't have to be something at the gym, right? Playing Frisbee, walking the dog.
Right.
That stuff's exercise too. So whatever movement is good for you, go garden for all I care.
Right.
But just use your body. You have one. We've become like, I sit in a chair and I use my brain all day and I don't really use my body. We have a body too.
Well, it's just with the, there's a discussion about iPads with children in school now about how, yes, they're using their brain, but are they moving their body? I know that's a whole discussion for another time, but it's not only going local, state, and national, saying kids in school are just spending too much time on their iPads.
Right. In our house, we limit them to an hour on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And now that they're in middle school, they're going to have to be doing some work on their iPads for homework. But we delineate it, right? There's sort of using a screen as a tool, and there's using a screen as an entertainment.
Right.
And those are two different things in my house. An hour for entertainment, and as a tool, that's different. If you need to grab it for 5 minutes to look up something, do it. If you have to do a slide deck for school, do your slide deck as long as that takes.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of trying to, the routine, the consistency, but also we as parents, we have to role model that.
Right, yeah.
Right? We got to make sure that we're not.
Our screens end at 6 o'clock in my house.
Yeah, or when you're going somewhere. Right. So it sounds like, you really provide a lot of good useful tools for parents.
And then the D real quick.
Oh,
so
the
we
D,
don't
I'm
miss
sorry.
that one. The D is diet.
Diet, okay.
And I'm a big fan of the supermarket perimeter diet. Just go in and shop the perimeter. So go in, fruits and veggies, head up to the back, hit the fish and the meats, come down the dairy aisle, and then go home. Not because the stuff in the middle is full of toxins or anything like that, but because it's mostly simple carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates spike the blood sugar, and then you get fog brain. So try to eat the more whole foods.
Stay away from the sugar.
Right.
Well, in the time we have a few minutes. Do you have any upcoming talks, workshops?
I will be, 2 weeks from now, I'm at the Chelmsford Moms Group. I'll be in Chelmsford. I don't have anything in Shrewsbury coming up anytime soon, but I do have the podcast. People can always listen to me on the podcast. I dropped my 90th episode
Congratulations.
last Friday. Thank you very much. I haven't missed a week since I started. We're up to 15,000 downloads a month. And it runs the gamut. I've had everything from, I interviewed someone who is a voice coach talking about how to use your voice as a parenting tool. The other day, not this most recent episode, but the one prior to, I interviewed Amy Leone, who's out of Milford, about teen vaping and sort of that addictive behavior stuff. So we played with that a little bit. I did an interview, my most recent episode, episode 90, was I interviewed a guy from Florida who uses Dungeons and Dragons as a counseling tool.
Well, if it works, it works.
Yeah, so it's been a fun thing. I interviewed Dave Pilkey, the author of Captain Underpants and Dogman. So it's been a cool experience to talk to lots of different people about lots of different stuff.
And how do you get them?
A lot of it is just me hustling. It's just me contacting people and finding things on Facebook. I might see an article and that looks really cool. I want to interview that guy. I pay attention to what's going on in the news around education and that kind of stuff. I've got an interview coming up where a family that got a letter added to the Family Medical Leave Act that grants parents the right to use family medical leave for IEP meetings and care meetings and that kind of stuff.
I saw that. I think that's great.
Thank you. Yeah, so I managed to track down the people who got that done. And they came on the podcast. We talked about what the letter says, how they got the letter written, what that process was like for them. So it was cool.
Is that a federal law or is it a state law?
It's federal.
And not many people know about it.
Nope.
I mean, I work in a place where I usually get updates. I didn't get that one yet.
Yeah, that's because it's not a change to the law. A letter in relation to the law is that the law should now be interpreted in this way.
Okay.
So it's like fine tuning a law that already exists. So it wasn't as major a situation as it could have been if it was a law change, but it still matters. It's still good to know.
And all right. Well, in a minute that we have left, why don't you talk about how people can reach you, your webpage, and so on?
Yeah. So you can reach me at ADHDessentials.com. That's probably the most direct way. You can also email me at brendan@ADHDessentials.com. That's BRENDAN at ADHDessentials.com. And the podcast is on whatever your podcast player of choice is. Everything is ADHD Essentials. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. So I'm all over the social medias.
And how many downloads, just so the readers to know, how many downloads do you get per show? Do you have an average?
I'm up to 1,700 or 1,800 downloads per episode, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Well, that's really good. So maybe one day you'll do a TV show.
It's possible, yeah.
Well, this is another episode of Miller Chat. My guest today was Brendan Mahan. He is the owner of ADHD Essentials. And hopefully you enjoy the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.